Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk, it's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area
Oh,
better
fuck
than...
that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
This is The Last of Us, a video game originally released exclusively for the PlayStation 3 back on the 14th of June in 2013. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world overrun with infected monsters and deranged human ones. The story is about Joel, played by Troy Baker, who is tasked with protecting and delivering a young girl named Ellie, played by Ashley Johnson, to a group called the Fireflies. Ellie is special in this world of infectious and dangerous creatures because she is immune, unable to be infected. So Joel needs to take Ellie on a cross-country journey in the hopes that the Fireflies can use Ellie to create a cure and save humanity. In 2013, the game released to rave reviews and endless praise. A review from The Guardian reading, "The Last of Us is visually arresting, mechanically solid, maturely written, and by turns heartrending, tense, unnerving, and brutal." And they were right. Fast forward to July of 2014, nearly 8 months after the release of the PlayStation 4, and The Last of Us would release. Again, The Last of Us Remastered released for PlayStation 4 to once again rave reviews and endless praise, some praising it for the second time, and some praising it for the first time, having missed out on it on the PlayStation 3.
I was so excited to get my hands on this game, finally! Winner of over 200 Game of the Year awards on the PlayStation 3. Well, this definitely had some incredible hype to get me past and win me over. But you know what? You know when a game reaches this level in gaming, it suddenly comes under fire from naysayers? Fuck you! This game sucks! It's not good! You know, Xbox fanboys. Well, to them I say salty! Because this game is freaking undeniably awesome. A well-crafted masterpiece that even holds its own on the next generation. Hell, it's actually the best game on the next generation.
Time would go on and the developers Naughty Dog would pursue other ventures. They'd wrap up Nathan Drake's story with Uncharted 4, and they'd even go on to make a sequel to The Last of Us, The Last of Us Part 2. But a little under a decade of time would pass before The Last of Us would release again. This time, rebranded as The Last of Us Part 1. The Last of Us Part 1 would release in September of 2022 for PlayStation 5 to, yet again, rave reviews and near endless praise. Players praising not only the game they'd now played on 3 console generations, but also praising the new look of the game. The graphical fidelity of The Last of Us hadn't changed all too much between the original release in 2013 and the remaster the year after. But this was something else.
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view, though.
looking more in line with the still to this day impressive looks of The Last of Us Part 2 more than its original look back in 2013. The reason I bring all of this up is to establish the success of The Last of Us and the cultural impact of The Last of Us. PlayStation has yet to release any of its other games for 3 console generations in a row, and the fact the game received praise each and every time it released goes to show the love the IP still garners to this day. You have most likely heard of The Last of Us. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who hasn't, and even if you've never played it, I'm willing to bet you know the scene that opened this video. Arguably, the most recognizable and most iconic scene in the entire game. And if you haven't ever seen this before, I bet you liked what you saw. The dialogue, hard-hitting and meaningful. The somber music, perfectly backlighting this interaction. The actors, terrific and powerful performances by Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, beautifully captured by mocap. And in The Last of Us Part 1, it looks phenomenal. You can even see the tears welling in Ellie's eyes. This hits hard. Now imagine this scene, but this time it's done by actors trying to replicate Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, with cinematography framing this scene in a near identical way, with the same dialogue, in the same story. It will not hit as hard. It will not strike the same chord. Simply put, it will not be as good. In 2023, we will see The Last of Us release one more time, one final time perhaps, with The Last of Us, a show releasing exclusively for HBO. The show takes place in a post-apocalyptic world overrun with infected monsters and deranged human ones. The story is about Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, who is tasked with protecting and delivering a young girl named Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey, to a group called the Fireflies. Ellie is special in this world of infectious and dangerous creatures because she is immune, unable to get infected, so Joel needs to take Ellie on a you get it. To say I'm not keen on the release of this show would be an understatement, but this isn't blind hate or disliking something popular for the sake of it. I don't do that. No, I have real concerns, real genuine concerns and criticisms. And today I would like to discuss those concerns and criticisms with you, if you'll listen. What's up, schmucks? I hope you're well, and I hope you're ready to discuss The Last of Us, because there is much to say. Back in 2020, I released a video titled The Last of Us Show is Stupid, off the back of the original news of the show's inception. That video contained a handful of points I still stand by, and will make an argument for once again in this video. But since then, not only have I grown as a creator, but I now have more thoughts on the inherent mistake that this show is. So this video will serve as a semi-remake of that video, but ultimately it will be its own video essay. Again, I would like to reiterate that this video is not being made as a hate-driven project, but more so from concern. This is from the point of view of a concerned fan looking at something that greatly disappoints him. Alright, let's begin. But first, thank you for watching, my beautiful schmucks. I appreciate it. Before we get to what is genuinely concerning about this show, I think it's healthy to start with the positives, because
It's got its ups and downs.
Firstly, Neil Druckmann has said that this show will largely be the same as the game, with a few extra elements added here and there. In theory, this is a really good idea, basically making The Last of Us the director's cut, adding world-building elements or new characters, or really any asset that could drag down a game's runtime could now be implemented into this show. That said, this, in execution, could entirely backfire. I have a little more to say about this, so I'll save it for a different section, but now I want to talk about casting. Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are incredible as Joel and Ellie, just sensational. And fulfilling those characters is no easy task, and I honestly don't think anyone could or will match what they did. The best we can hope for is for the actors to encapsulate the role without feeling like mimics. However, I really like these castings. I was unsure of Bella Ramsey as Ellie only because I wasn't overly familiar with her work, but this one scene from the trailer won me over.
She so much as twitches.
And Pedro Pascal has always been a powerhouse talent. I think he's a great choice for Joel. I think even if this show is worse than the Halo show, these two are going to crush it. They clearly have incredible chemistry.
Hello, Hollywood Reporter.
Hello, Hollywood Reporter.
Who are you?
I'm Bella Ramsey.
And I'm Pedro Pascal.
I'm Pedro Pascal.
I'm Bella Pascal.
I'm Beldro Ramscal. And we are here to play The Last Time I.
I'm very excited.
The last time you.
The
The last time we. Ah.
And honestly, That's all a good Joel and Ellie need. I was never worried about the character depictions in this show. I don't think it's a hot take to say that the characters in The Last of Us aren't groundbreaking by any means. Joel is the sad dad archetype with a violent past and a shield around his heart due to his trauma, and Ellie is a mature for her age teenager with a foul mouth and a quick wit. We don't love Joel and Ellie because they're original or super unique. We love them because of how they were brought to life and the performances behind them and the journey they go on. And because the characterizations and nuances of them are so simple, it's nearly impossible to get Joel and Ellie wrong. They are too simple to misinterpret. So the only part of them that is at risk is the actors portraying them. And I already know Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are gonna kill it, so I have no worries about it. Everyone else is fine. I don't have strong feelings on any of them really. I do wish they tried harder to make the actors look the part though. Where is Tommy's beard and greasy hair? Where's Joel's bushy beard and wrinkly face? I get that these are actors playing originally animated characters, but the characters of The Last of Us all look like real people, so I don't think that's an excuse. The last thing I think looks good is the infected. The clicker's sound is probably the same asset ripped right out of the game, so that's good. The design looks identical, so that's cool. And the tease of the bloater is also very good. It does look like a big CGI monster though, but I guess we'll see it when we see it. Alright, that's enough positivity. I'm actually allergic to positivity, and I can feel my sinuses acting up. So let's move on to what's concerning about this show, and where my criticisms lie. Over the years, we as an audience and as moviegoers have been subject to a series of Disney live-action remakes. Soulless cash grabs made simply because the studio owns the IP and stands to make heaps of money off of people's nostalgia. Movies that change very little about the original movie, and when they do, the changes are more than likely to the detriment of the story at hand. And every time Disney releases one of these, we all say the same things. Art is dead, creativity was murdered, and needless remakes pulled the trigger. All the same complaints, time and time again. But when Naughty Dog does it, we get giddy and excited about it?
That doesn't seem fair.
The Last of Us is already an amazing story and journey, and the Part 1 remaster is the absolute best way to experience it. The game that already felt like a movie now looks even more like a movie. Why would you just make that again? What is the thought process here? Let's take an already super cinematic game that plays like an interactive movie and then make it a non-interactive movie. That was the idea? I also don't see the creative value in taking something that's already been done beautifully and very thoroughly and just doing it again. Let's ask ourselves a question real quick. What could be added to The Last of Us's story to make it better? In my opinion, nothing.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
I think it's a very tightly written story with very few cracks and tells the story it wants to tell in a near perfect way. But what was the idea behind adapting The Last of Us to live action? Who is this for? General audiences? Fuck them. If they don't have a PlayStation, that's their problem. I also don't think expanding the fan base and exposing this story to a wider audience is an adequate argument to the annoyingly uninspired idea of adapting a heavily cinematic and story-focused game to live action. If you wanted to expand the fan base, there are much more creative ways to do it, but it really bothers me that this show is being celebrated for being a lazy rehash when any other time an IP is lazily rehashed, there's adequate amount of pushback. Studios won't learn that we hate this shit if we keep bending over for it. There is no creativity in this endeavor. Adapting a movie-esque game into a movie-esque format was not a decision made by people who care about storytelling. It was made by people who like money.
Naughty Dog is releasing a new project called The Last of Us. First of all, congratulations, Naughty Dog.
Hello, I like money.
What inspired you to create a show that adapts the exact same story as the original game?
Money.
The Last of Us isn't winning any awards for being the most original concept ever created, but to say the idea of a real-world virus being the basis for a zombie apocalypse isn't incredibly intriguing would be a blatant lie. The cordyceps virus is a real thing, and the idea of it jumping to human beings and turning people into piranha plants is fascinating, and the world that the two games set up is ripe with possibilities. So maybe instead of lazily adapting something that's already been done incredibly well, they could have flexed those creative muscles and done something original. I mentioned that there were smarter ways to expand the fan base, and this is what I mean: spin-offs. World expansions through a TV show. But oh man, this is uncharted territory. Never before has a video game had a TV show that was fantastic, that didn't outright adapt the game itself, but instead told its own original story that expanded on the world of the game and brought in new fans and reinvigorated previously existing ones.
The Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime that launched recently proved to be critically acclaimed. I watched it myself. It's awesome. And now we're getting to a point where Cyberpunk 2077 is starting to see a similar resurgence. If you go to Steam charts right now, you will find the player base peaking back up at a rather impressive pace.
So, to be an annoying little prick, here are 10 quick ideas for a more creative show set in the world of The Last of Us. 1. A canon Tommy and Joel prequel set after the cold open of the first game, but before the events of the main game. We hear a little bit about it, and it could be incredibly interesting.
How did you know
Know what?
about the ambush?
I've been on both sides.
Oh. So, you kill a lot of innocent people? I'll take that as a yes.
Take it however you want.
You want some gear? Sure. But I ain't taking that girl off your hands.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you?
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care. That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me.
It wasn't worth it.
2. An anthology series where every episode is its own tale. This sounds really basic, but it would allow for heaps of creative freedom. 3. A canon prequel showing the founding and formation of the Fireflies. 4. An anthology series, but it's like Love, Death, and Robots, so each one is animated. You could even incorporate Joel and Ellie into this and have Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson come back. 5. A new story set in this world. Just tell us a new story about new people in this world. This is undeniably what this show should have been. 6. An anthology where every episode is a different person in a different region of the world. Maybe Australia has different infected types than Canada. 7. An anthology where every episode is a different person in a different time period of the apocalypse. Early days where society is just starting to crumble. Or decades in the future where guns aren't a thing anymore and people have to rely on makeshift weapons to survive. We could even see new types of infected as time goes on. 8. A canon story about how the WLF and the Seraphites War began, with events overlapping the second game, and we could see it all come to a proper conclusion. You could flesh out the world with a spin-off.
What's your location? Who's with you? Those freaks were ready for our squad. Echo, you're breaking up. What is your location? Turn the rim. Chill out here. Echo, come in. Briggs. Shit.
9. The continuation of The Last of Us Part 2. Naughty Dog can still make The Last of Us Part 3 about Ellie, but then we'd have the show be the continuation and conclusion of Abby and Lev's story. 10. Any spin-off about the numerous characters in the games. Any of them could provide an incredibly interesting story if done properly. Let's see the formation of the Seraphites or the WLF. Let's see Marlene's story, or Bill's, or Isaac's, or anyone's. These games have no shortage of interesting characters, but God fucking forbid it be about anyone other than Joel or Ellie. And even if these ideas aren't very good, this is me spitballing things. I'm not paid to come up with ideas for TV shows. There are people that are. And the people that are paid to do that job decided to take the lazy way out and just make something already super story focused, already super cinematic. Just take that and do it again. So if you're mad about my shitty ideas, you shouldn't be, because there's someone out there who's paid to do that and did a worse job than me. The world the game set up is expansive and has so much potential for interesting and incredible storytelling. We don't need a Last of Us cinematic universe, and I definitely don't want the franchise to get milked into oversaturation the way Marvel and Star Wars have been lately. But when you're given the opportunity to make a TV show about one of the most beloved and honestly one of the best video games ever made, and you decide to just remake it, it comes off as incredibly lazy and uninspired. Something both The Last of Us games do amazingly is world building. From throwaway lines to optional lines of dialogue and to exploring the world itself, you learn so much about this world and all that has happened in it. You don't have to rely solely on cutscenes to fill you in. You are in control. If you go and explore, you can find notes and bodies and rooms all around the world that tell a story. It is incredibly well done. For a show, this is harder to do. You can't really have a 10-minute sequence of Joel and Ellie wandering around a house reading letters to each other and leering at corpses on the floor. However, you also run a risk with having so much world building being done through flashbacks or monologues with other characters that may or may not be interesting. I worry about the episodes where Joel and Ellie meet important characters and if we'll get unnecessary flashbacks about them. I know this show is meant to be its own rendition of this story, but a point I really want to emphasize is how unnecessary all of it is. Let's use Bill for an example. In the game, we learn about Bill not through an extended flashback, but through chunks of dialogue at a time and spending time with him. We learn that he's the most paranoid person alive, he has an affinity for traps, he used to have a lover named Frank, and he's grown to be bitter, resentful, and sad.
Look, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, I had somebody that I cared about. A partner. Somebody I had to look after. And in this world, that sort of shit's good for one thing. Getting you killed. So you know what I did? I wisened the fuck up. And I realized it's gotta be just me.
What, you know this guy or something?
Frank.
Who the hell's Frank?
He was my partner. He's the only idiot that would wear a shirt like that. He's got bites. Here. And
I reckon he didn't want to turn, so he...
Yeah, I guess not. Well, fuck him.
That's quite a lot of background for a character you don't spend a lot of time with and never see once his section of the game is done. Talking to Bill and being around him tells us everything we need to know and then some. Now granted, the show might do that. The show might let that play out exactly the same way and forego the unnecessary flashbacks and monologues. But if that's the case, then what's the point? If they're going to adapt this story one for one and change nothing, why do it at all? And if they do decide to change things, that in itself feels unnecessary because it's already been done perfectly. Either way they go with this, it is the wrong option because this show's existence is the wrong option. I know I'm praising The Last of Us a lot, but don't get me wrong. The Last of Us is not the Citizen Kane or the Godfather of video games. Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario Galaxy are. But The Last of Us is as good as it is because of how tightly written it is. Nothing in The Last of Us overstays its welcome or is done as a half measure, at least in terms of story. I have my fair share of complaints with the gameplay, but we can save that for a different time. But as for the story, everything the game goes for, it executes brilliantly. You care about these characters. You care about their growth and development. You love some of them, you hate a couple of them, and you feel bad for a few. This story was beautifully told the first time around, done excellently back in 2013, and it remains excellent to this day. I truly do not see the point in doing it again, except this time it's on a streaming service instead of a PlayStation. Because it comes down to the show taking one of two paths. Path 1, doing everything exactly the same way, which would be unnecessary as it was already done, or Path 2, changing a bunch of stuff, which begs the question of why not just telling an original story set in this world from the get-go. But also changing something already done incredibly well feels unnecessary because why fix something that wasn't broken? Here's one of the more emotional scenes from the game, the heartbreaking death of Sarah, Joel's daughter.
Sarah? Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby, I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. No. No, 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 no. Please.
This will not hit the same way in the show. Done the same way, with the same music, and the same dialogue, and the same shot composition, it simply won't be the same. Why bother replicating it? Here's another emotional scene, this one from the back end of the game.
Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
It's okay.
This will not land the same way. With the same set of events precursing it, the same music, it won't be the same. Why bother? What is the point in telling this story one more time but on a different medium? It serves no purpose, it's just lazy. And these moments could be heavily changed from the original game. Who knows? I haven't seen the show yet. But if they wanted to do new things and play with these ideas in new ways, then why not make something entirely new? Why remake the game? Like I keep saying, The Last of Us is cinematic. A lot of people like to call the PlayStation exclusives walking simulators, and I have a hard time disagreeing with that as much as I love them. They really are interactive movies. But that really just reinforces the point that these are games that do not and should not be adapted to movies or TV shows. It doesn't need to be done. Make a Crash Bandicoot movie. The Mario movie looks incredible in my opinion. The idea of taking a very linear game about running and jumping on things and giving it a new story and new context is great. That's the kind of creativity I want to see in video game movies, not this. This is lazy. Make a goddamn spin-off. Tell a new story in this world. Be fucking creative. Before I properly wrap this up, I want it on the record that I would love to be wrong. I would love to have to make a follow-up saying I was wrong and the show is amazing and brilliant and that I was way too harsh. But I honestly don't think that's gonna happen. I think this is a creatively bankrupt show being made by creatively bankrupt people, and that just really breaks my heart. Time and time again, video games continue to prove to be fickle things that turn into successful adaptations. But in recent years, we've been starting to get some good ones. The Sonic movies are good, Edge Runners and Arcane did the spin-off and world expansion concept fantastically, and the Cuphead show seems to be good based on the little I've seen of it. But video games like God of War, Uncharted, Spider-Man, Doom, Red Dead Redemption, Days Gone, Control, Cyberpunk, and so many more beyond that are not hesitating to tell elongated stories and or create new and exciting universes filled with lore. But I strongly feel like these worlds can and maybe should stay as video games. I've seen people say it's wrong for interesting concepts and stories to stay within their own medium and not be shared with general audiences, but I say,
what's so wrong with that?
Adapting a book to live action can let an audience see something only once read about. Adapting comics to live action can be done in a very faithful way or in a way that has more creative liberties and leniency. But either way, it's a way of seeing those characters and worlds brought to life right before your eyes, when before they existed solely on the page. Video games offer worlds and characters players can live in, interact with, and enjoy in a semi-endless way. Want to go on an interplanetary adventure with talking guns? Play High on Life. Want to be a samurai and explore feudal Japan? Play Ghost of Tsushima. Want to explore a distant future and fight giant robots? Play Horizon. Video games offer escapism in a way movies and TV simply can't, and I feel like those mediums do better separately. Movies and shows expanding on the world a video game sets up can be very interesting. Look at Cyberpunk Edge Runners and Arcane. So why straight up remake a game story one-to-one? It is the pure definition of lazy. Why do we need a TV show about the journey of Kratos and Atreus? I've played the new God of War duology. It's fantastic, and if I feel like that's a journey I want to go on again, I'll turn on my PlayStation. It doesn't need to be lazily recreated for a different medium. The Last of Us is a story story worth experiencing several times over. I've played the game 8 times over the years, and I won't hesitate to play it again. But we don't need a TV adaptation of it where very little will be changed, rendering it unnecessary, or very much will be changed, making it clear that a new idea should have been implemented. This doesn't come from a place of hate for a show that hasn't come out yet. It comes from a place of love for one of the best video game experiences I have ever had.